I'm Italian, so I'm drinking Italian coffee, and it's an espresso. My name is Carine Chisu, and I am the founder of my own company since 2008. It's called Armani Chisu. I have been in business through business coaching, training, and my background is education. So I'm very passionate about education. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. My inspiring idea, just my idea, was about building an entrepreneurial thinking environment in education. And it is about making sure that students at the different levels in education would be acquainted with entrepreneurial thinking. First of all, being critical towards the reality. So something that bothers me, I can be critical, but just being critical is not interesting for the outside world. So what I need is, after being critical, I need to be creative to find an answer to the problem that aggravates me. So it's like a cycle. I take an inspiration from the outside world, I put it through my critical thinking, my creative thinking, and then I implement a solution to that problem in the real world, just as entrepreneurs do. So entrepreneurial thinking is not all about entrepreneurship. It is about a way of thinking. And I know that in the formal education system, there is a lot of, I would even say fear about entrepreneurship. It's all about business, etc., etc. Well, the good news is that in our current world, entrepreneurial thinking is becoming more and more important because of the complexity of the world. We need more people to be critical, but not just critical and it stops there. They need to be also creative so that they can have different answers to the problems in this complex world. So when it comes to entrepreneurial thinking today, we have different examples like social entrepreneurship, green entrepreneurship, innovative entrepreneurship. And these are all kinds of entrepreneurial thinking ways that don't need to be the classical, the normal business-wise entrepreneurship that people knew until very recently. So I totally understand that there is like a negative connotation to entrepreneurial thinking, but today it doesn't mean the same thing anymore. And there are so many different ways of doing entrepreneurial thinking that I'm sure in education someone can find his or her way through the educational system to get entrepreneurial thinking into that educational system. I think it is very important to make not just education entrepreneurial, but the teachers' training entrepreneurial, because it all starts with teachers. Since a few years now, and I guess that is in Europe, because it's a European context that asks for teachers to be entrepreneurial and to make their students more entrepreneurial. But of course, if this fear is still there, first, and second, if a teacher doesn't really know what entrepreneurial thinking is about, how can they make and assess students on entrepreneurial thinking? So what my dream is that there would be an entrepreneurial thinking module, at least a module, in the teachers' training, so that teachers would become more entrepreneurial themselves and would understand what it is to make students more entrepreneurial, and then be able to assess, etc., etc., etc. So that is the reason why I think we really, if we want to have more entrepreneurial education, we first have to start with teachers' training. Yeah. So what I propose to do is a training program for educators. And educators can be of any level, like, again, going back to the teachers training program, you can have primary teachers, students, you can have secondary teachers, students, etc., etc. But it can also be for faculty members. So it's for all levels. It's for facilitators who want to understand, who want to discover what entrepreneurial thinking is about, and then take their thinking to a next level so that they can become more entrepreneurial themselves and have their students in the future be more entrepreneurial as well. I would say 20 years ago, I had a position in a Belgian university, and I was a director there. And we had this idea with my team that we would have entrepreneurial steps at each change of level. So from kindergarten to primary school, from primary school to secondary school, and so on. And each time there would be like an entrepreneurial project that had to be finished by the children or the youngsters before they could go on to the next level. So it could be embedded. If we start from the fact that entrepreneurial thinking is all about critical thinking and creative thinking, then why would we wait until the students are 20 years old? So yeah, it starts from kindergarten. Absolutely, yes. Well, if teachers training is becoming entrepreneurial, then I think the university of the future would really be in reality, would become a reality. Because if we look at critical thinking and creative thinking as employability skills, they are very high in the ranking of what is needed to be a lifelong learner, lifelong employable, and so on. So it seems to me that it's really like a basic skill that needs to be understood. And so if these skills are embedded in the university, are given to the students so that they can transmit these skills to their students, then yeah, that's where we are, the university of the future. So yeah, it seems like a very simple idea, but in order to make it real, the whole educational system will have to change, and to understand that it's not something you need to be afraid of, or you don't need to be against. It's just something that you and I are already doing all the time. It's just that it hasn't been said like that. It hasn't been identified as something so needed. And now with the complex world outside, it is always more needed. So we really need to train, to teach, to educate young people to be more critical and more creative, because that's where they will continue to have an added value, where artificial intelligence is going to take over some jobs and so on. But there is one thing that we are still, for the moment, still in charge of, and that is our creativity. So the more we get creative people out there, the better. Then we will be in charge, and we will be able to continue to be employable, to work, to think, to create. So, and I even think to be happy, because when we create, that's where we're happy.